So we're back with just a regular video here. Been a minute since we did one of these. And normally when we get things posted on here, it's just either the ballot review or it is the podcast just going up on here. However, today I want to do something a little bit different because me and Ryan, as you guys probably know us from the show, because if you haven't, you just stumbled across here, then that's welcome, but it's kind of just come across here. Any case, we were talking about playoff formats and whatnot, and I don't know what time of year I'm going to release this at. I'm recording in the middle of July, so it may come out this weekend, it may come out when we get closer to the actual postseason, whenever. Doesn't really matter. The point is, I was thinking about it, and I came up with 4 kind of alternative playoff structures to what we see now, because a lot of them are kind of boring. You know, we have the half system for 2 leagues, and I don't like that at all. It's, you know, it doesn't really reward you for having a full body of work. I understand it's necessity, but, like, still, I don't love that. And then the Frontier League looks like they're getting a better way of doing things, having 6 teams versus 3, where it used to really be a gauntlet, and I kind of like that a lot. And then you had the association one, where it's basically everyone but the absolute bottom of the barrel get in. So, changing up the pace here, I wanted to come in some different ways. I come up with 4 here. Graphics should be on the screen, so you can follow along. It's not that these graphics are meant to represent one particular league. Like the first one we're going to talk about here, the Octo Tournament, doesn't necessarily need to be for the Pioneer League, which seeing Noco on here reminds me I made these graphics a while ago. But it doesn't necessarily mean this goes to the Pioneer League. It just means that, like, hey, it could work in any league. So I just want to put some teams on there to make it a little bit easier to digest. So that being said, let's talk about the Octo Tournament first. So top 8 teams would get in. So that's going to be all but 4 teams in most leagues. However, there are going to be a few, like, say, the Frontier League, which is rocking with 18 teams right now, where 10 would be on the outside looking in. And I guess the Atlantic League has 10, so the bottom 2 wouldn't get in there. But regardless, your top 8 teams would get in, and then each of them would play each other. So you'd have a round robin there. So say, for the example here, Noco, if they still existed, so let's just pretend they're the Sky Sox now, would play each of those other 7 teams, as would the Ballers play each of the other 7 teams, and then Ogden each of the 7 teams, and rinse and repeat. And then the 2 with the worst record will get eliminated. We'll use run diff as the, tiebreaker should we need it. It's the best one to use for aggregate. And then we'll go to runs scored. We'll say we'll reward you for scoring runs, as opposed to keep them off the board. But, the tiebreakers can be changed to fit the appropriate league. And we'll do that until we get to a championship game. You can host this whole tournament in one neutral site. Make it kind of like a Super Bowl type situation where you allow one home market to hype this up the whole year, amp it up the whole year, sell tickets, including as part of packages and everything, and really make it something special here. The obvious downside is if the home team is not in the tournament, it becomes infinitely more difficult to market. This also has the major downside being roughly 3 weeks long. Even if you're playing games at a certain rate, the best case scenario is you're looking at 3 weeks. So probably a little bit longer than we want for a playoff structure. It'd probably be the kind of thing where you'd have to end your season more at the same time that the college summer teams end it. Maybe a little bit later than that. So more draft league ending mid-August would probably be where you'd want to wrap it up at. So that way you can end early September, mid-September for this whole thing here. But it cuts down travel. It makes it a little bit easier to sell, I think, and is a little bit different. Going on to the next format here, it's going to be the 3-stage format. So kind of similar here. It's only a 14 to 15 day runtime here. So you could wrap it up in 2.5 weeks max. And you're going to have a round robin format. It's going to be a group play setup here. It's going to be a little WBC-like, admittedly. So that's kind of where my head at was with it. But 6 teams get in. So you're looking bare minimum half the league to a third of the league going to be in for this. 5 games per team, i.e. you're playing the other 5 teams that made it. 1 host city for the group play. Makes it a lot easier. You could just put it in Chicago, let's say. We're using the association as our example team here. Or you could put it in Winnipeg or wherever. Probably states that's a little bit easier just for visa reasons and passports and all that kind of deal. So you put in Chicago, you put in Lake Country, you put in wherever you think you could sell the best out of all of them. You slap them in there. Your top 4 teams advance based off of record. You shouldn't have too much in the way of ties there, but if you do, tiebreaker again, we'll use run diff, but tiebreakers can be subjective. You can put whichever tiebreaker you prefer there. Then we have a reseed round. We take the teams that perform the best in the group play stage and seed them 1 through 4. And you could either keep the host city or you could go now to just the number 1 seed city and the number 2 seed city can each host the best of 3, which is what this round will be. I'll just go to a simple best of 3. In this particular instance, we're going to say Chicago and Sioux Falls are hosting, and they will host, Fargo and Winnipeg in this, and they'll play best of 3. And then, you have a winner there. You go to a title game in again, either reseed round city, or it goes to, in this particular instance, the Fargo home arena. So go to Newman Outdoor, and you would play a best of 3 there to get a winner. Pros here is it feels like a bit more of an odyssey while being on that similar timeline to get everything wrapped up. Again, limits travel significantly, which is a huge plus and a big expense saver. If you do a 1 city host for the original thing, you can sell tickets again in advance. Admittedly, you're once again risking the possibility of that host city not being there and then really having an empty setup here, but it might be worth the risk to get that little bump in the sales and not have to alter your regular season schedule. Also with the reseed round, again, you can keep the neutral site thing or you can go back to the host cities. The risk there is maybe it's a little confusing, but odds are your casual fan is not intimately familiar with the schedule. And you could get away with doing that kind of thing. And they'll just think they're on the road for a week or the season wrapped up. And when they get back, you have the opportunity to really go with a hard media push, playoff championship baseball and on that sale there. So again, I like that as a possibility. I think that is one of the more favored ways of doing this here. Admittedly though, the last 2 are by far my favorite. And it goes to something you may have seen the KBO for our next one. Frontier League is going to be our model for this. And that is the ladder match style. What you have here is a 3-week long tournament, which again, admittedly is a little longer than I would like. But if you start at the beginning of September or mid-August, you can still wrap up in a timely manner. It's a best of 3 format the whole way through from round 1 to the finals. And what it essentially is you have the number 5, number 6 seed teams here, but you could make it as many or as few teams as you'd like. That's the beauty of this. They play a best of 3 for round 1. The winner of that 5-6 matchup goes on to play the 4 seed. And the winner of that matchup goes on to play the 3 seed, and then the 2 seed, and then the 1 seed. So what this does is it rewards that regular season performance. It rewards you for taking the year seriously. It also eliminates the half system in this, so not applicable everywhere, but trying to kill the half system is a goal of mine, and this very much accomplishes that. You get to see a variety of teams you might not have seen. You get a full league buy-in from it, so something like this could be very nice to see from, like, say, the association perhaps. But you have a whole variety and a whole slew of possibilities there. So we'll definitely like that. On that front there, it's a little bit different. And you have a good mix of rewarding the long sample size while still having that competitive balance in the postseason. So something of note to watch there. I would like to see this format. However, I do admit that there are difficulties by the travel. There are difficulties versus the sales because you don't really know what you're going to be selling. And you have a longer layoff the better you do. Now you could play, scrimmages and whatnot, but they're not going to be treated the same way as a live game. So you're going to get a little bit of rest there. But even still, I like that format a lot. I think it's the most interesting, and it has been tested in a professional league before, which makes it all the better. We go to the final format here, and that is the cut format. So this is very much in line with a golf tournament cut line. So essentially what you would have here is a predetermined winning percentage. In this particular instance, we're going to say a 520 winning percentage, but you could bump it down to as low as, say, a 440 if you wanted to. You could go up to like a 560 if you wanted to. I'm using 520 because I feel like that gets you just far enough over 500 to where quality teams will be in, but you could readjust it throughout the year if you needed to. Maybe pick like on July 1, whatever, the combined winning percentage of the top half of the league is what it's going to wind up being, or however mathematically you have to work it out to get a good number or get the correct number that you want to be, right? So if you are above that winning percentage number, you're in the postseason. If you're not, then you're not in the postseason. Very simple, very straightforward here. You can put buys in as needed. So let's say there's only 3 teams that made it. Well, the best overall record, they get a bye to the championship, and then the 2s will fight it out here. You could do the same thing for the, if you had 6 teams in here, because that could be a problem. Top 2 get a bye, and then the remaining 4 teams will duke it out. And when you have 2 winners, then the lower remaining team will play the best remaining team, and the middles will play the middles. Best of 3 for the early rounds is what I'd like to see here, but I'd understand if you want to move it up or down. It's approximately a 2-week-long tournament, championships of best of 5, to really add in that feel of it. And you could extend it out or shorten it up depending on however many teams are here. It punishes mediocrity, it rewards excellence, and it's something that I would personally love to see implemented. However, admittedly, this is the most far out there of them all. It still feels like it presents the best mix of rewarding, maintained excellence, while also keeping the postseason flair in there. So just kind of some random ideas I wanted to throw out there. Figure I throw one of these unscripted videos out there. They're easy to get out and see how you guys liked it. Playoff format video in the can. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, don't forget to play ball.